even think anybody else was here. You know what? I'm glad you are. We got a lot to talk about. On this installment of Psych Rad, we will be shining a light on cult leader Jim Jones and the probability that he had narcissistic personality disorder. But be warned, it's going to get a little dark.
Jim Jones was a charismatic, power-hungry preacher who in 1978 orchestrated the murder and mass suicide.
What's going on in here?
Nothing?
Okay.
Okay, maybe that was a little too dark. Let's try that again. Jim Jones was a charismatic, power-hungry preacher who in 1978 orchestrated the murder and mass suicide of 913 people, most of them loyal followers of his religious organization, the People's Temple. Jones has been compared to other megalomaniacal sociopaths such as Hitler, Stalin, and Kim Jong-il, all of whom are speculated to have been narcissists and seem to display characteristics of narcissistic personality disorder. The DSM-5 lists 9 characteristics of narcissistic personality disorder, at least 5 of which must be present in order to make a diagnosis. Jones, ever the overachiever, seems to have exceeded the minimum criteria. The first characteristic of NPD listed in the DSM is a grandiose sense of self-importance. For example, they tend to exaggerate when touting their achievements and talents, and they usually expect to be recognized as superior without commensurate achievements. Jones's grandiose sense of self-importance is made apparent by several things he said and did. For example, Jones would make references to himself as Savior and God, and claim to have the ability to heal the body and soul of others.
Edie? Are your fingers numb? In your right hand? Having enormous headaches in your head?
Yes.
Reach your hands out. Reach your hand out to me.
Yes.
Reach the fingers out that are bothering you. Now, is the pain gone?
The next characteristic listed in the DSM diagnostic criteria for NPD is a preoccupation with fantasies of unlimited success, power, brilliance, beauty, or ideal love. Before Jones was exposed for fraudulent and criminal behavior in 1977, he had a burgeoning political career and rubbed elbows with high-profile politicians. It is speculated that if Jones had not been exposed, he could have had a promising career as a political power, but consequently ended up, as some would call him, the undisputed ruler of his jungle community, Jonestown.
Are we all here? How very much I've tried to give you a good life. It's been said by the greatest prophets since time immemorial, no man takes my life from me, I lay my life down.
Jones's followers thought of him as their patriarchal saint, savior, and even God, and that is the way Jones liked it. Former members of the People's Temple who lived in Jonestown reported that Jones broadcasted recordings of himself over loudspeakers 24 hours a day, which again seems to indicate a grandiose sense of self-importance and a rich fantasy life.
Men have so dastardly distorted what my spirit is that it is necessary for me to come upon the scene, and I have. I shall show you from time to time proofs of that, so that you will have no further need of religion, because the highest authority tells you that you have no further need of it. I've come doing all the things you ever imagined God to do and have never seen done. You have never seen anyone resurrected before your eyes, and yet you have seen me do it repeatedly. You have never seen anyone shot down as I was before your eyes with the blood spurting from the body and heal themselves, yet I, the socialist worker, did that. It's beautiful to know God is a socialist worker. You can identify with that. God is a socialist worker. He is one of the people. He's an instrument of all that you have desired. All that freedom embraces, all that justice embodies, everything that sensitivity imbibes, that is what your God is. And I must say it is a great effort to be God. I wish it upon another, but no one else in the particular stratum of the class consciousness that we are evolving in has the faculty that I do. When they do, I'll be glad to hold their coat. In the meantime, I shall be God, and beside me there shall be no other.
Another unique quality characteristic of individuals with NPD is an elitist attitude which entails the belief that he or she is special and unique and can only be understood by or should associate with other special or high-status people or institutions. As mentioned before, Jones had associations with high-profile politicians, some of whom included the mayor of San Francisco, the governor of California, and a vice presidential candidate. It is said that Jones considered himself to be a powerful public figure in the same league with the politicians he intermingled with, and those not in the same league were inferior to him and were treated accordingly. It is also said that those that Jones felt were below him were treated very badly, being beaten, emotionally abused, held against their will, publicly humiliated, and even threatened with death if they left the group. A need for excessive admiration is another characteristic of NPD that was apparent in Jones. According to those who were close to Jones, he always had to be the leader and center of attention, and the utopia he promised his followers ended up being more like an Orwellian prison camp, where he could rule unchecked and unchallenged by any other authority.
Kneel before Zod!
Number 5 in the DSM list of NPD characteristics is a sense of self-entitlement, i.e. unreasonable expectations of especially favorable treatment or automatic compliance with his or her expectations.
Dr. Bramwell on some occasion.
Yeah.
I will tell you, brother, that what you had last night, drugs, if you get caught again, you'll be in jail, and my spirit will not be able to help you. I reached you as a socialist liberator to your health and your well-being. If you will, you've got in your pack something that you take two times a day in the pack, in a big bottle. I will cease taking those for 10 days. And I said, I urge you to stick around and learn this socialist principle.
Although his sermons denounce activities such as drug abuse and rape, Jones actively engaged in them himself, and would use emotional and physical abuse to control and manipulate his followers. Jones dealt harshly with anyone who opposed him and did so with complete disregard to established law and morality.
Jim wanted all allegiance for himself. He wanted every person to only love him. When there's allegiance to one individual person, where this person is allowed to interpret God or interpret things for you, and you accept his thoughts more than your own, I think that should be a warning sign.
Although only 5 of the 9 characteristics listed in the DSM are needed to make a diagnosis of NPD, Jones exceeds the minimum 5 and appears to have had most, if not all of them. Jones was also reported to be interpersonally exploitive, evidenced by the way he manipulated his followers into giving him all of their worldly possessions and making them do routine suicide rehearsals.
1,000 people who said, we don't like the way the world is. Take our life from us. We laid it down. We got tired. We didn't commit suicide. We committed a revolutionary act of suicide protesting the conditions of an inhumane world.
Jones displayed an obvious lack of empathy for others, even though he presented himself as a man of and for the people. His lack of consideration for other people's feelings and needs is made evident by the way in which he abused and exploited his followers. Jones was also hypervigilant about keeping outside groups, such as government agencies, from interfering with him, his followers, and the work they were doing.
Mr. Jones, I am merely trying to find out what's going on here on behalf of almost 1,000 of my constituents who happen to be members of your flock.
They're the constituents of God and Jim Jones.
He even accused the media of slandering him and his organization due to their quote-unquote intense envy of his own power and grand place in American society. This hypervigilance about outside antagonists and his view of the media seems to indicate that Jones was often envious of others, or believed that others were envious of him. And it seems to go without saying that Jim Jones showed arrogant, haughty behaviors or attitudes. Thus, he seems to meet all 9 characteristics for a diagnosis of NPD.
Why am I so persecuted? There's no peace for me anywhere in the world. How about preaching the simple gospel have I created so many enemies? Why do people hate me when all I've ever tried to do was good? It's so painful.
So we all know how it ended for Jones and his followers, but hopefully we've learned from the tragic events that took place in Jonestown, and not to drink the proverbial Kool-Aid from the likes of narcissists like Jim Jones.